Back again with another segment of the things that we learned this offseason with the Cleveland Browns. On to the big uglies up front. We'll let you know why that staying strong, staying tough, and staying with that running game as far as your offensive lineman is concerned is something that the Cleveland Browns hang their hat on. We'll talk about it coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Your host, Garrett Bush, at GBush91. We appreciate everybody. Makes Locked On Browns their first listen every day. Whether it's on your favorite podcast app, make sure you're following, subscribed, of course, to the Locked On Browns podcast. Now on YouTube. Guys, I like round numbers. We're at 1,100. Let's get to like a 1,200. I'm a round number type of guy. I can't round up in this scenario. So why don't you help us all out? Get us over to 1,200 subscribers. Appreciate everybody being along for, the new journey here of Locked On Browns as we go, the video route here with the show. As Garrett had mentioned here, we can get to a couple more segments here on 10 things we learned about the Cleveland Browns this offseason. We're going to talk a little bit about the offensive line. We're going to talk a little about the defensive tackle room. And we're going to play a what-if card here today. Say Deshaun Watson is and does end up suspended for 1 year. Again, no information here. No, we're just playing a what-if card. So don't need any reaction to it that way, guys. We're going to go through a list here, some free agent quarterbacks, and see if the Browns would be maybe possibly interested in picking up the phone and bringing in some competition for Jacoby Brissett. The offensive line here, and one thing that has been solid with this team for the 2 years through Coach Stefanski's regime thus far is the offensive line. Jedrick Wills now going into year 3. Joel Bitonio, for what I feel most of us here in Cleveland feel, trending towards a Hall of Fame career on the interior. We'll talk a little bit about Nick Harris. It looks like Nick Harris is now going to take over as your starting center here in his third year in 2022. Right guard, not enough superlatives to talk about Mr. Wyatt Teller and his play to this point. Just seems to improve, and Wyatt Teller is one of those guys that can seem to find a negative from each season and use it as his fuel to get him through the offseason, get him ready to come in and try and be even better than he was the season before. And Jack Conklin at right tackle. Browns adjusted the contract. Jack Conklin is currently here for what would be a 1-year deal for 2022 for the Browns. Jack Conklin, it's been almost kind of like a Baker Mayfield in a smaller sample size. 2020, Jack Conklin was fantastic, was an all-pro. 2020, injury-marred season. Certainly didn't see the best out of Jack here. But Garrett, there are a couple of ways to look at this, and we kind of got into this yesterday when we discussed the running back position. With the emphasis on the offensive line and certainly with the emphasis with the running backs, it looks like you were geared, or it's your insurance policy for however long this team has to play with Deshaun Watson. The running game is a huge, huge part of this team. You may have to wait for the evolution of the passing game for when Deshaun Watson can inevitably play for this team. So keeping this line intact. And I think the first one I want to hit on here is definitely Nick Harris taking over for J.C. Cheddar. J.C. Cheddar, it's not a knock on J.C. And I think J.C.'s career in Cleveland probably ended up going even longer than some folks in Cleveland thought it would. J.C., the knee it's kind of degenerative. And J.C. Cheddar had to do everything he could to be out there every Sunday. Extremely, extremely limited practice player. He was a guy that most of the time just showed up on Friday, got, whatever updates there were to the offense, to the game plan for that week, went out on Sunday and certainly did his job admirably well. There's no question about it. But you drafted Nick Harris in 2020. In his rookie year, he played a little bit on the interior at times when Wyatt Teller had missed a little time. Got one start in 2021 against the Green Bay Packers, a game where Nick Harris actually looked really, really solid. He's been groomed for this. And I think the thing with making this switch And as difficult it is to move on from J.C. Cheddar, he was, Joel Bitonio, a fantastic player, but you talked to Joel Bitonio, and there were not enough superlatives he could speak about J.C. Cheddar. But Nick Harris, he was the starting center every day in practice for 2 calendar years. Finally got to show his wares against the Green Bay Packers, played extremely well. It was a really, really difficult thing to move on from J.C. Cheddar, but you were in an awkward spot with Nick Harris where he had basically done everything to have this job. And it essentially was the kid's time. And Browns really had no choice. Obviously, they save a little bit of money on a scenario like this. But it was time to see, Nick Harris and give him the opportunity that he had put in the work for.
Yeah, when you look at Nick Harris, a guy they drafted, and this is just a testament to good organizations, good general managers, and good scouting departments, because at some point in time, we have gap players, what we like to call them. J.C. Cheddar, to me, was a fill-in-the-gap type player. Jarvis Landry was a fill-in-the-gap type player. Those players who you see who are your first big free agents that you get, the first set of free agents that you get into the building, into your program, that kind of change the culture, change how you guys go about doing things, and show other teams that, hey, look, the Cleveland Browns are on the map. When they got Jarvis Landry, that really transformed the offense, and then they got J.C. Cheddar as an anchor inside as the center, and he helped transform the Cleveland Browns into one of the best offensive line groups in the league. We're gonna see now just how good Bill Callahan is. We're gonna see how well those scouting departments have done in scouting some of the replacements, right? So now you look at the fact that you put a Nick Harris in there. They beefed him up. He definitely gained 20 or so odd pounds, and they were already planning for this. If you watch Building the Browns, they talked about this was kind of the succession plan when they looked at him as center. You mentioned Conklin and basically a restructured deal on the right-hand side. It'll be very interesting to see exactly what he's able to do coming back. They say he's going to be ready to go full go by the time camp comes around. If it's up to me, I'm playing the young kids over on there. Maybe trying to rotate some guys in there, if we can find a diamond in the rough. My goal is to make sure Jack Conklin gets back to full speed, ready to play, and he's ready to go game 1. I think they'll maintenance him. I think they'll make sure that he makes it through camp, and that's the objective, to get him back at that level. Also, want to see Jedrick Wills. We haven't mentioned him much this year, but Jedrick Wills, top 10 pick, guy at left tackle, struggled a little bit, had the injuries last year. We also want to see Jedrick Wills get to the season scot-free. We don't want to see any little nagging injuries, and we want to see what he can really do and see if he can kind of go back to his rookie years when he played pretty solid. Last year, injured a little bit. It's very tough on the offensive lineman when you have any lower body situations, because when you got lower body injuries, that means you're going against pass rushers on left and right side that can use the speed, that can get you off balance, can use the bull rush. So your lower base, it's all about your kick slide. It's all about your stability and sitting back in a chair, like they like to say, and making sure you can block these defensive ends that are trying to run a hoop, turn the corner, and get to the quarterback. So for what we're looking at here, the Cleveland Browns have all the makings of being a dominant front. However, you got to go do it. You can't just rest on your laurels. If you're going to be known as one of those guys, like, the Hogs unit with the Washington Redskins back in the day, if you want to be known as one of those stalwart lines where people are moving people, as the old Dallas Cowboys, Larry Allen, Nate Newton, those guys, if you want to be known as some of those teams, you got to be able to plug some guys in, still keep the ball rolling, and you already know what Bitonio and Teller is going to give you. They're going to give you grade A, work offensively as far as run blocking and pass blocking. So really, really excited to see what they're going to do. And they're going to have to keep Jacoby Brissett from getting pressure. So that means, hey, if we got to max protect a few times, hey, if we got to, slide protect, do what we need to do, because he's not going to be able to extend the plays like Deshaun Watson does. So I'm looking forward to seeing which one of these, Nick Harris especially, Jedrick Wills, Conklin, those are where I'm looking at with the offensive line.
I'm in agreement with you here. And, as great as this unit looks to potentially be, you certainly have some questions here. Will Nick Harris prove to be, a capable replacement to J.C. Cheddar. I think with the tackles, the question is all just about health. Jedrick Wills, to his credit, was able to play through it last year. And impressive times. Obviously there's going to be some times against some guys who were just elite, where Jedrick Wills was maybe, obviously was certainly limited in his athletic ability, due to the high ankle sprain. Jack Conklin. The thing with Jack Conklin is there is great Jack Conklin, and then there is Jack Conklin either dinged up or out. Jack Conklin, when he's dinged up, is not the player. And it's one of these things where, Jack Conklin is built more like an athlete than he is a traditional offensive lineman. So when he's a little bit dinged up, it takes a lot away from his play than maybe it does some other guys. But, if you just need one reference why you need Jack Conklin to be the Jack Conklin, it's TJ Watt coming off the right tackle side. The 2 times you're going to have to play Pittsburgh. Obviously, we know the nuisance, the menace he was against the Cleveland Browns last year. For Jack Conklin to be able to return to his top level, his all-pro level of play, it's a huge, huge factor for the Browns here in 2022. Certainly needed. I think Jedrick Wills with health, I think people are going to see that the Browns, their selection of him at 10th overall in 2020 was more than okay. Jedrick Wills, as long as he's healthy, he is going to evolve and take that step into being considered one of the better left tackles in the NFL. We're going to flip it over here to the interior of the defensive line. We've all been doing this for years now for the Cleveland Browns. These are the guys you got to target in the draft. 6'3", 335. Look at these free agents. Up. And you want to know what? I think we all feel like we're a little bit in tune with it, what Andrew Berry and Coach Stefanski want to do. At the end of the day, though, this is one dog that essentially won't hunt for the Browns front office. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk Bar. But guess what? Your friends at Built have given Coconut Brownie Chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right. The Coconut Brownie Chunk Bar, flavor you love, in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 1% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen. They are good for you. They are low calorie. They're low in sugar, high in protein, and they are all delicious. The Coconut Brownie Chunk Puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to Built.com right now to make sure you don't miss out. They are going fast because they taste amazing. All Built bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is most certainly good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually good for you. They are the perfect treat, perfect when you've got a craving, when you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick, healthy snack. They are an excellent source of protein. Delicious coconut, rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Go to Built.com to order your box of Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED, all caps, number 15, and get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. G. Bush in the building, Jeff Lloyd in the building. Make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Very important, man. Just to do both, man. Just to get that like button. It really pushes our content out to other people that may be able to see, other Browns fans that may not understand or learn or know that this is the best Browns podcast in the game. Help us get that word out there. Continue to support us on YouTube. Continue to support us wherever you find your podcast at. We thank you for the growth and success that we had so far. But season is coming up. Training camp is coming up. And if you really want to stay up on all the latest, make sure you go ahead and follow us as well. And watch me on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you do that. See, I'm double plugged in. You can also listen to me on the Odyssey app, too. I'm everywhere. Odyssey app, 92.3 The Fan, every single Saturday, 8 to 12. You can find me every single day on, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and you can find me there as well. And that will be anywhere you can find your podcast as well. So I'm all over the place. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe and get to it, man. Jeff, let's get to these defensive linemen, man. It just seems like since the beginning of the time, we've been wanting a guy like, the big Sam Adams or the big Tony Siragusa. Rest in peace to Tony Siragusa, just tragically passed away as well. One of the big lovable characters in the league, man. We always loved actually his game and what he brought to the broadcasting booth as well. But we've always wanted those big tandems. Remember the Williams Twins in Buffalo. Pat Williams, Kevin Williams. Like, we love those type guys that can kind of stuff it up, two gap the thing, take up double teams so you can't move to your linebackers. And we've always wanted that, but we've never really quite got it. And even when we tried, it just didn't work out. Danny Shelton, boy, I tell you, Danny Shelton, we thought, I'm like, oh, they got the big 6'2", 335, 340-pound Danny Shelton. You be like, all Danny Shelton does is jump on piles. I've never seen this man tackle nobody by himself. He's jumping on the pile, and we were still getting destroyed, giving up 200 yards on the ground every single week. That's not what it is, man. Nowadays, what people want to do is you need to get pass rush at all of your positions. You still want your three techniques. You still want your nose tackle to be able to give you some sort of a move or maybe a counter move. At least give him a rip. A rip will always work. You know, he may not be able to get the speed rush stuff off, but hey, bull rush, push pull, rip moves, up and under moves. We need athleticism in that middle, because the way the league is moved, the way the league is kind of morphed into a passing league, you're not so much worried about teams just lining up in I formation and running it all the way down the field. There's a couple teams that are running a lot. The Tennessee Titans will run it a lot. The Indianapolis Colts run the football a fair amount, but for the most part, teams are throwing this football. Second and 5 is a passing down. 3rd and 3 is a passing down. Everybody is moving the ball around, and when you got an opportunity to have one of the best athletic, most gifted defensive ends in Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, you just want a little something from what you got inside. You just want a little wiggle, a little pass rush ability, get upfield, disrupt some stuff, and that could give you an opportunity to get some sacks, because those guys are going to be collapsed in the pocket. All you got to do is have rush integrity, stay where you need to be, and get there. So I think this is a situation where right now we're still looking. And now, if I was a guy to say where are we looking to find somebody that's willing to step up, it's a glaring issue with the defensive tackles. We're still looking for one. All those guys they drafted in the 3rd round, they've been on the roster. We're looking for one of y'all to step up, take the positions by the horn, and never look back. It might be a committee issue, a committee thing going into it, but I still think they're still looking for a defensive tackle, especially that one that can pass rush.
This is where it gets difficult. And I know we've all done this, for the last few off seasons. Everybody tries to get together, predict free agents that the Browns should have interest in, predict obviously draft choices that the Browns should have interest in. And we keep looking for this 6'3", 330-pound guy. And for the 2 years that this team has been constructed the way they are, the only time they even dabbled into a player like this was Andrew Billings. 2020, Andrew Billings obviously opted out, due to, I believe Andrew Billings has asthma, so I believe that was the reason he opted out of 2020. 2021, it was, he showed up here, and, the Browns figured, hey, this is a guy we had on a 1-year deal. We have promised that he can be part of this. Never went well. Was outplayed by basically every defensive tackle on the roster that the Browns had. In 2021, certainly didn't help that in that time they had signed Malik Jackson. They had discovered Malik McDowell, after all those years, Malik McDowell being away from the game. Those guys surpassed him. Certainly a Jordan Elliott surpassed him. And then once they decided they wanted to start playing Tommy Togiai, guess what? Andrew Billings was gone. And I agree with you totally on the way this is the way the game is played here. For the Browns to bring in that guy, and if that guy were to ever be successful for the Browns, the 6'4", 330-pound defensive tackle, he's going to be a one-snap player. He's going to play on 1st and 10. He's going to play in goal line. That's it. There's going to be no other time a player like that is going to be on the field. This defense is predicated on speed, intelligence, athleticism. Even for me now, I think maybe Tommy Togiai could be a guy that could step up here in the defensive tackle room in 2022. Tommy Togiai is barely 300 pounds. It depends whether you caught him after lunch or dinner, whether or not Tommy Togiai weighs around 300 pounds. But he's right in that same mix with Taven Bryan. He is right in that same mix with Jordan Elliott. And this is where, you review these players. We've been trying to do this forever for the Browns. I've been trying to do it since the entire years I've covered this team, and even going back to Danny Shelton. Yes. it's just not the way this unit functions. And if currently the way the AFC is, basically, again, where it is basketball on grass, and it's not even the old NBA of the 1990s where we're going to smack you in the mouth if you try to, go over the middle. Certainly more of a finesse game, more of an athletic game. And the Browns' belief is to get the best 11 athletes you can get on the field for any given snap. If we got to add an extra lineman for goal line, that's what we're going to do. We'll play 3 deep tackles. We'll play 2 defensive ends, and we'll go that route as opposed to having the one guy that can stop that situation. All that being said, and I watch the Browns go out somewhere in the next 48 hours, bring in somebody who weighs 340 and make us both look stupid. But it's not been the route this team has gone to this way. It is built on athleticism. It is built on speed. It's not the old traditional big anvil in the middle of the line. And even if they even went that route, the ideal scenario would that be that guy would maybe see 7 to 10 snaps a game. So again, the Browns, the defense, Joe Woods' theory, all it is based on athleticism. It is based on speed. And as Garrett mentioned, to the Browns, you play defensive tackle. For us, it ain't so much about whether or not you can snuff the run. Shortest route to sack the quarterback is coming from the interior, not from the outside. And if you can do that, you can play for Joe Woods. We're going to continue here. We're going to play the what-if card. Deshaun Watson does maybe get a 1-year suspension. I've got a list here of some NFL quarterbacks who are currently free agents. I don't believe the Browns think Josh Dobbs is somebody that could take meaningful reps for them. The other thing is if you know it's going to be a full year, Jacoby Brissett, I'd say you'd maybe want a lot of little competition in here. We'll get to that in just one second. Again, as always, we appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen. Favorite podcast app, again, 5-star ratings. Make sure you subscribe following the show. YouTube closing in on 1,200 subscribers. Let's keep that number jumping up here, up and through the weekend. Of course, into next week. We appreciate everybody who's made the switch over here and enjoying all the new coverage here on YouTube. Just another way for us to get you guys the best possible Cleveland Browns information that we can.
Locked On Browns podcast, back at it again. Jeff, we talk about this all the time. If Jacoby Brissett is going to play a certain amount of games, what level of faith does the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, have in Jacoby Brissett? And even more than that, Josh Dobbs behind him, right? So you look at this team, and we've talked about it all offseason. We've got into it and said, hey, look, this team has enough weapons that they should still be competitive in terms of the offensive line we just went over. We talked about how the running game and the running backs, we talked about that yesterday. Make sure you guys go check out that video. If you haven't, we did a running back preview. It was yesterday. We talked about the running back room and why the Browns running back room is going to be the best, most elite group in the league next year. So we talked about that. But the thing is, if you have all the pieces and parts, you got a dominant pass rush, you got a lockdown corner, you got some nice athletes in safety, athleticism at linebacker. What do you need in order to keep yourself afloat? If Deshaun Watson is gone for more than 8 games, God forbid he's gone the whole year, right? What is your contingency plan? So you have a list of some people that you want to go over, and we're going to discuss as potential, I guess, backup plans that we might want to go around and explore in terms of whether or not we need to bring somebody else new in here. And so you got the names available.
First things first, and we're doing this scenario based on the what if. And you know what, the Browns could view Jacoby Brissett as a fine guy to have for 6 games, a fine guy to have for 8 games. But if you're viewing this for 17. And it's not a knock on Jacoby Brissett, you also have to bring the health factor into the scenario. Even if the Browns, at the end of the day, are comfortable with running 2022 with Jacoby Brissett, what's then the plan B? He's the plan B to Deshaun Watson. What would be the plan B? God forbid something happened to Jacoby Brissett. Some names currently that are free agents. Obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick has retired. Do you kick? Ryan Fitzpatrick loves Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if there was a scenario where the Browns said, hey, Ryan, one last year under the sun, this is a team with legitimate playoff aspirations. Can you maybe wait a year on that Thursday night gig that you're eyeing up here? And maybe we can, instead of covering Thursday Night Football, maybe you can be a part of it. Cam Newton, you certainly don't think that in a way, shape, or form Cam Newton wants to be done with the NFL. Weird scenario when he went back to Carolina last year because the team was floundering. But this would be a position where Cam Newton's not going to be asked to do a ton. Certainly something to entertain. Mike Lennon's a free agent. Garrett Gilbert obviously has ties to Cleveland, spent some time here in 2018 and 2019. If you try to go that route, I mean, I do remember their start he had for the Dallas Cowboys a few years ago, over 300 yards, had a heck of a day. But is this somebody that you could maybe say would be contention-wise, maybe could, give you what Brissett does if he, Brissett couldn't start for some reason whatsoever? Some names to consider: Josh Rosen. Now, to think about where this class is, remember, it was Josh Rosen, it was Sam Darnold, it was Baker Mayfield, it was Josh Allen, it was Lamar Jackson. Everybody thought, man, the NFL is getting a class of 5 really, really good quarterbacks. Josh Rosen currently doesn't have a home. Baker Mayfield sitting here in limbo in Cleveland. Sam Darnold's pretty much in the same situation in Carolina. And you've had Lamar Jackson, who's won an MVP, and Josh Allen, who looks like he's certainly competing one day to win an MVP in the NFL himself. So crazy how that class certainly worked out. And I'm actually going to give you 2 actual trade candidates for quarterbacks as well with this list. You have Nick Foles, who's going to go back up Matt Ryan in Indianapolis this year. Nick Foles, the Super Bowl season, in Philly where he jumped in for Carson Wentz certainly speaks for himself. Never really got a legitimate opportunity after that. Some of the opportunities he got didn't work out so great. So maybe a player like Nick Foles in that scenario is something you would want to look into. You would certainly want to ponder. And final one would be, interestingly enough here, Andy Dalton down in New Orleans. Obviously, New Orleans is going to, most likely run with Jameis Winston. They've got the whole, scenario with the tight end quarterback that they're paying $1 bazillion to, which just is absolutely bizarre. But do you say to Andy Dalton, hey, 34 years old, you've got the experience, you certainly played in playoff games. We need somebody to come up here and either push Jacoby Brissett or help this team, get to what we think can be a playoff run, even though we don't have Deshaun Watson in 2022.
A lot of those names, some of them are a little intriguing. It's so crazy that, Josh Rosen, I go back to listen and take a look at what he was coming out of UCLA. Man, they was calling him like Anakin Skywalker or something. He was chosen. You were the chosen one. You are the chosen one. Yeah, listen, bro, he just got out here and was looking crazy. Was terrible with the Cardinals. They was like, yeah, we're gonna go get Kyler Murray. Then was with the Dolphins, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna get you up out of here too. So, some of those names are really funny. Fitzmagic, he's like 96. He just keeps coming back. I will say this: Fitzmagic can give you 4 touchdowns a game, but he can give you 6 interceptions that same game, and he'll still come out here slinging. So he's part of that old school gunslinger, Wild West shoot 'em out type guy. So, but one of the names I'm looking at, and I've already talked about it. If it push come to shove, I mean, I would not mind going to get Jimmy Garoppolo. If he's available, you got Trey Lance out there. Obviously, they're moving on from him. Obviously, they made, if your first round pick and they moved up to get him, he's gonna play this year. So you look at, he's a little more expensive than Baker. We talked about it before. Like, hey, could you trade a Baker Mayfield for Jimmy Garoppolo? Could that be a possibility of doing something? I think the Browns wouldn't mind taking a couple extra $1 million if there was a swap with the 49ers. Here's the problem. If you're a 49ers organization, the worst thing you can just about do is put Baker Mayfield behind Trey Lance. That's like, come on. I mean, Baker Mayfield has a Tebow following. You're gonna put him out there, and in 5-6 weeks into the season, people are gonna be clamoring to see, hey, Trey Lance, he's running the read option out here. You got a guy in Baker Mayfield, former number 1 overall pick. They're gonna start chanting for him earlier, and that's not gonna work. So I think that's the only reason it won't work in with the 49ers, because it'd be dumb to put Baker Mayfield behind somebody and ask him to hold a clipboard and be supportive. That's not his thing. He's he's not one of those guys that's out here being supportive and just saying, hey guys, how do you feel about this? No, he's going after it. So I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I like Cam Newton is an interesting one too. He had a terrible little outing with the Panthers. He looked terrible with the Patriots. He's lost a step. He was never. I think he's been losing about a step and a half a year. So he's no longer. he's no longer running away from people. He was never that agile, but Cam used to be able to go. He took a lot of hits when he was younger in his career. And another thing too, when he had that shoulder injury, man, I don't think he can throw the ball very well anymore. Like it looks like he's shot putting the ball. So, those are all intriguing names. I wouldn't be surprised if they do bring in another guy, depending on how they feel about Josh Dobbs. But if they're not gonna be out for Deshaun Watson's not out the whole year, I think they'll just eventually go with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Look, if Deshaun Watson, eight. Look, if everybody wants to say a season, and so you split it, and look, and everybody's starting to see the reason the NFL wanted to settle is they realize some things may come up in this hearings that are going to favor Deshaun Watson, which is going to put the NFL in a really, really difficult position here. If it's not the entire season, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett's team to run. This was just a scenario to play. Say, hey, it's 17 games, and regardless, if it's 17 games without Deshaun Watson, you got to have two quarterbacks to man through it. Now, I'm just not sure that the Browns believe Josh Dobbs is capable of that. Got to a bunch here today, of course, talked about the Browns' offensive line, as great as it looks. Certainly a couple of question marks, health, and of course the newness for Nick Harris. Trying to find the big mammoth mountain of a man for the interior of the Browns defensive line. Let's just stop doing it, because that's just not going to happen. And of course, the scenario of what would we do if the inevitable Deshaun Watson were to be given, I should say, a 1-year suspension. He is Garrett Bush, 92.3 The Fan, barbershop every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I do not know how Garrett keeps a voice going for 7 days straight. There's got to be something in the tea that Garrett drinks or something over there, but Garrett keeps that voice so choice for the entire week long. The Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday on YouTube. Garrett and the crew, obviously guests rolling in every single day. You get the perfect mix of sports information, sports takes, and obviously just a little fun with everybody involved. So make sure you're checking that out, of course. Make sure you're following at GBush91. Me personally at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. And the show itself at Locked On Browns. Follow back account. DMs are open. Again, everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform, follow, subscribe to the show, leave those ratings and reviews, please and thank you. And YouTube, where we're closing in at about 1,200 subscribers to this point, cannot be more thankful. And of course, certainly not satisfied, but appreciate everybody as we take the show here to another level. All that being said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.